Today's notes are going to cover fractional distances. What is the distance between -5 and 3 on the number line below? Well, from a previous lesson, we learned that to find the distance, we take the first point, we subtract the second, and we take the absolute value of that. So -5 minus 3 gives us -8, and the absolute value is 8. Now that I know the distance, how do I find half or a fourth or 3/4 of the distance? Well, hopefully you know that half of 8 is 4. Most of you, or some of you, will know that a fourth of 8 is 2. Now, if you're not sure how I'm getting these numbers, let me show you the math behind it. Let's take the fraction, and I'm going to write it one on top of the other, and I'm going to multiply it by that distance. Now, that's a whole number 8, so I'm going to go ahead and put it over 1 so that my fractions look the same. Now, there's two ways I can do this. I can multiply straight across. 3 times 8 is 24, 4 times 1 is 4, and then reduce that. The second option is to reduce first. So I'm going to write it just like I did before, but this time I'm going to reduce the 4 and the 8. 4 goes into 4 one time. 4 goes into 8 2 times. Now when I multiply straight across, 3 times 2 is 6, 1 times 1 is 1, and we can rewrite that as just 6. So it's up to you how you want to do that. So then lastly, what number is a half, a fourth, or 3/4 from -5? So let's start with -5 and add the distance that is half from that. So half of that was 4. -5 plus 4 is -1. What number is a fourth the distance? So starting with -5, we're going to add the distance that is a fourth of the entire distance, which is 2, to -5, and that gives us -3. And lastly, -5, and the number that is 3/4 the distance, well, that is 6. So I'm going to add 6, and that gives me 1. So what we've done is we've just answered the question on a number line. Point A is at -5, point B is at 3, and we determine the location of a point 3/4 the distance from A to B. Finding fractional distances. Here are the steps. The first thing was to find the total distance, and we know that's x1 minus x2 absolute value of. Step 2 is to multiply the total distance by the fraction, and step 3, using the answer from step 2, count from the starting point. This becomes your final point. So problem number 1, find the point on BD that is a fourth the distance from B to D. Well, we got to start with what is the distance from B to D. So B is at -6, and we're going to subtract the coordinate for D, which is -2. So this is the absolute value of -4, which is 4. So we know the distance from B to D is 4 units. Step 2, if I want to find the point that is a fourth the distance, I need to multiply 4 times 1 over 4. I'm going to go ahead and put the 4 over 1 and then multiply straight across. Now I could have reduced first, but either way we'll get to a distance of 1. And then step 3, start with the coordinate for B, which is -6, add 1, and that's -5. -5 is the point on BD, a fourth the distance from B to D. In our last example, we are looking for the point that is 3/5 the distance from B to D. So we're using the same starting and ending, so we know that the distance from B to D is 4. Step 2, we take 4, but this time we're multiplying it by 3/5. So I'm going to go ahead and write 4 over 1 times 3 over 5. This time nothing's going to reduce, so I multiply straight across, and that gives me 12 over 5. Now sometimes it's easier to see decimals, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and figure out what the decimal form of 12/5 is. So 5 divides into 12 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10, and we have 2. We're going to add a decimal and bring down a 0. 5 goes into 20, 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20, and 0 remainder. So 12/5 is equal to 2.4. All right, in step 3, we start with B, and we add the distance we just found, 2.4. -6 plus 2.4 is -3.6.